My name's Kieran. I'm a freelance entertainment journalist for Sci Fiction. We're doing this interview for, and with me today I've Paul Dergarabedian, who is the head of marketplace trends at Rentrak, who's here to talk about the box office with me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Kieran. What a year we're having, right? At the
Yeah.
box office. I watch what you post, or I look at what you post on LinkedIn a lot. Your analyses are really great. We're going to mainly focus, I think, on domestic today, but we
Yep.
definitely need to revisit the global box office. Although we can talk about the fact that, Michael hit $1 billion about 2 weeks ago at the global box office. Toy Story 5 closing in on 900 million. That's going to hit a billion. Super Mario Galaxy hit a billion about a month ago. A little, no, more than that, actually. But I mean, we have $3 billion global movies
Oh,
this
I'm
year, probably with more to come, I think, for sure.
am I recording? Oh no, I am. Good. Yeah, that's great. So, how is the 2026 box office sort of doing,
Yeah.
um, especially compared to previous years? Is it looking healthy or?
It's looking really good. I mean, now, of course, and I'll get to July, the month of July in a moment. But when you look at the first quarter, but particularly the second quarter, both very strong this year. I think for me, the big takeaway was, well, and for a lot of people, was the performance of Backrooms and, of course, Obsession. Those two movies, I mean, we're talking about over $600 million worldwide for those films combined, higher than that at this point. And those added a lot of box office horsepower to the bottom line, both in May and June. May hit $1 billion, and so did June at the domestic North American box office alone. Those 2 months each generated over $1 billion. So that tells you about the overall health of the industry. But part of that was built on the back of films that held very strongly in the marketplace week after week. Films like Michael, Project Hail Mary, Devil Wears Prada 2. Obsession is sort of I mean, that's an outlier like we've never seen. Incredible
Mythical
performance.
holds.
What's that? Yeah, I know those holds were incredible. So, all that being said, right now, the year to date box office is up about 10, close to 11% versus last year. The summer to date is up as well. I've got my numbers here and I'll share my screen in a minute. Summer's up 7% versus last year. So, and we're pacing pretty closely with 2019's pre-pandemic summer, although July has had some disappointing openers. Hopefully they'll hang in there for the long haul, but certainly Supergirl, Minions and Monsters, and most recently Moana, they didn't quite move the needle like we had expected. But the Odyssey opens tomorrow, basically, and I think that's gonna add a lot of dollars to the bottom line.
Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to mention, obviously, Obsession and Backrooms
Yeah.
doing. Oh, it's your screen as well.
Yeah.
And those are seeing like YouTubers kind of break into the whole space, and we had Iron Lung earlier this year
Yeah.
that I guess didn't break out in quite the same way, but still
Yeah.
did very
Did great
successful for
business. Yeah. That's
what it.
right. So, mhm.
Do
Yeah.
you think that, especially they're outpacing sort of established brands like Star Wars and Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Do you think that shows us a shift in what audiences want
Yeah.
for them?
I think it does, particularly younger Gen Z audiences. They're looking for something a little bit different. And you mentioned Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu. That opened over Memorial Weekend here in the States, obviously. And the big story of that weekend was the second weekend of Obsession. And that tells you a lot when a venerable, iconic film franchise and brand such as Star Wars was a bit overshadowed by the performance of Obsession going up, I think, 39% at second weekend. That became the big story. And then the next weekend, Backrooms opened, and that was the final weekend of the month and everybody of May, and everyone was talking about Backrooms and Obsession, two movies that remain in the top 10 to this day. They've both been out for weeks. And I think there is a bit of a shift. I mean, the audience ultimately tells the industry what it wants by
Mhm.
either, people showing up or not showing up to the movie theater. And to also have a movie like Supergirl. Again, that was a movie where it got mixed reviews. It certainly, as a DC entry, really got a lot of negative press for the movie. That didn't help at all. So look at that. I mean, a big DC movie, Star Wars. Now let's. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we thought this back when the Blair Witch Project opened. I think that was
Yeah.
99, if I'm not mistaken. We thought, wow, the whole future is going to be these, handmade, handheld camera from unknown filmmakers that'll take over the world. And, that has, there have been a lot of films like that, from the video age where people can produce and edit and obviously shoot their own movies without having to use film, which is very expensive. But anyway, I think there may be a shift. We'll have to see if this is an anomaly or a trend. Time will tell. Because when obviously the Odyssey is a big brand in terms of Christopher Nolan, Spider-Man, Brand New Day is going to be, I think, the biggest opener of the year so far, if not for the whole year. Then you're going to have Avengers Doomsday, Dune Part 3. I think those are going to do just fine. So, but I think they're going to live side by side with films like Obsession, Backrooms, Iron Lung, and just independent films from all types of filmmakers, not just YouTube creator filmmakers, but independent filmmakers all over the world who may be working with budgets as small as, 20 grand. And maybe if they're lucky, they get a $500,000. Or in the case of Backrooms, 10 million as a budget. But Obsession had a budget of like 750K, maybe a million with marketing. So is this a new world we're living in? We don't know yet. It's a little too early to tell, I think. But I'm excited. I think it's great, Kieran, that that's happening and that filmmakers and films like that can break out and have small screen creators bring their audience from the small screen to movie theaters. I think movie theaters are thrilled about that.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine for sure.
Yeah.
Um, just pivoting slightly.
Yeah.
So this year was another year where there's the big unions of the actors, the writers, and the directors. They all negotiated new deals with the studios for working contracts.
Right.
Um, Thankfully, this year, no strike, unlike
Yeah.
2023. How relieved are you, and how relieved do you think that theatre owners will be
I,
that
I think
there's
the
no
industry
strike?
is very relieved because other than the pandemic, or a pandemic, nothing can hurt the industry more than strikes. I mean, once the work stops, the movie stops. Once the movies stop, the theaters stop. And then the revenue stop, is halted. And that's really bad for the industry. We've kind of gotten through all that. I think the bigger issue there is just there's still ongoing controversies and arguments over AI and how it's used creatively, both in terms of the personal image of actors or even their voice. I think that's going to be an ongoing point of contention. I think the league, you want to write up whatever legal, whatever statutes you're employing to address that with a pencil, not a pen, because you're going to have to erase it pretty quickly because the implications of AI are so profound. So,
Yeah,
but the strikes definitely we got through that because that really impacted things for a long time because it disrupted production, obviously, which then impacted the release calendar. Even last year, even in 2025, you could see a bit of that overlap, that reverse halo effect, if you will, of those strikes. But those were I think issues that needed to be worked out. So I'm just glad we're past all that. And I promised I'd share my screen, which I'll do in a minute, just towards the end of this, so we can just go over the numbers really quickly. But yeah, that's a great point, Karen. I think that's really important. And even for the YouTube creators, I suppose they could have kept filming or released their movies on YouTube during that, but luckily they didn't have to really deal with that at that point. But that there's a lot of implications there, a lot of them that we don't even know yet, that we're not even aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so turning to the future, what do you see? What do you think will perform well, or what do you
Yeah.
think that's not on anyone's radar yet? As oh, this will be
Well,
the next thing.
I'm glad you asked that because I did a survey on August, which I'll share with you. And if you want to incorporate it into your segment here, you could do that. So August has only hit $1 billion twice. Once in 2014 when Guardians of the Galaxy was released, and then in 2016 with Suicide Squad, domestically, US and Canada, billion-dollar months of August. With Spider-Man Brand New Day opening on July 31st, it's going to power a very strong August. And I'm looking forward to the Dog Stars from Ridley Scott, although that's at the end of August. I believe the Tony movie, Anthony Bourdain movie, is coming out. Now, of course, that's not going to be a big blockbuster, but I love August because you get edgier movies in the mix there, and that could be very cool. And then in September, Heart of the Beast with Brad Pitt and the German Shepherd dog, that's his buddy in that, and with J.K. Simmons also in that film. That looks really cool. So I'm excited about those. I think the Dog Stars and Heart of the Beast, although both featuring dogs, I'm fully in on that because I love dogs. And then there'll always be movies that come out of nowhere and surprise us. And it's funny because Thanksgiving we've got a new Meet the Fockers movie, Meet the Parents new movie coming out then, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about yet. That could be a big movie. So there's a lot to come. I'm really excited about just this summer. And a lot of people are disappointed in how July is performing, but August could actually be bigger than July this year, if I may be so bold, because of Spider-Man Brand New Day. And there's other movies, obviously, that are going to be released in August, but that's the final month of the summer. Summer is 130 days this year rather than 123. We got an extra week because of
Yeah,
where Labor Day falls. So that's how we measure it in the States in terms of the 18 weeks of box office that represents 40% of the year of the revenues earned in movie theaters. Very important time, but we get an extra 7 days this year, so that could help us to perhaps achieve that $4 billion mark at the box office. And if I may, I'll share my screen real quick.
yeah, of course.
So let's see if this works. I hope it does. There we go. So can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, but you're only seeing part of it. All right. Are you seeing the Rentrak year to date?
Yep.
So if we look at that, now my screen just expanded and I didn't want it to. So year to date, this is again domestic, US and Canada grosses 5.15 billion. We're running 11% ahead of 25, 16% behind 2019, which is sort of that pre-pandemic benchmark. Summer, if I scroll down a little bit, is for the same number of days, 73 days, starting first weekend in May through the same point in July each year. We're running about 7% ahead of last year. So that's good. But we are running 200 million behind the summer of 2019, but that's quite remarkable considering that 2019 was pre-pandemic era. So that's really cool to see these numbers. I'll leave it up on the screen for a moment, but that's where we are. And the fact that we're doing so well in terms of the box office. Again, I think it's more about, Kieran, more about the long-term playability of films than the opening weekend.
Yeah.
So if Minions and Monsters open okay, but it only dropped 45% in its second weekend. Supergirl, I think, dropped over 70% its second weekend. You have to have a certain level of opening weekend. You don't want to open at 5 million, right? If you're a big blockbuster, or even
Yeah.
20. But if you can open it even 50 million plus, but hold in week after week, to me, that's literally money in the bank. So that's what we're going to want to see moving forward is films holding in there. Moana, though, I don't know, the jury's out on that one. We'll have to see how
Mhm.
it performs this weekend. The Odyssey, clearly not a family film, at least not
No.
for little kids. So that could give Moana a shot in its second weekend to grab that family audience. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's
excellent.
pretty much all I got for today, but happy to join you anytime. I really admire your work. on
Thank you.
LinkedIn, Kieran. So stay in touch and we'll do more of this.
Excellent. Yeah, I will stay in touch, and thank you for taking your time to interview me. And I will just